Oh, you're on strike, so you're not
Rob,
writing. Yeah.
we're both on strike. We're in the
Well, you've been
WGA. I'm not
thinking.
writing the script.
Can
I'm
you
definitely
can you
thinking
talk
about
it?
the
Can you
script.
talk it into like a microphone or like your iPhone? Is that against? I don't know.
Technically, pencils down,
Yeah.
everything down. We're on strike right
Oh,
now.
well, I didn't
Yeah.
hear everything down. I heard pencils down.
Well, yeah, I heard. You see, I was. This is something I've been very. I'm a proud WGA member, and I said to
You
them,
don't have to tell me. I know that you're proud. I am also a
I'm
proud
so, I'm,
member.
I'm a proud boy when it comes to the WGA,
Oh,
and
I wouldn't. I
what?
wouldn't. I don't know. I
I'm
feel
a
like
proud
that's
boy who's a
yeah.
WGA member. Is that wrong
I
to
did
say?
well. That moniker has kind of been taken by a different type of group. When you say I'm a proud boy of, it's kind of negative connotations.
Oh, all right. Well, well, potato, potato.
And you also
Uh,
would not want to say like, "Hey, we took an oath and we're gonna keep it," because we
yeah,
keep.
we are. That's exactly it. As a proud boy,
Oh boy,
WGA member, I have taken an oath,
no,
sanctity,
no.
about standing with my brothers and
Hmm.
sisters on the line.
That's great.
Um, I've been looking at that wall at Paramount. Pretty easy to scale.
You're gonna like attack the studio. You're thinking about
Just go on a tour.
do January 6th style tour of the studio.
By the way, hey, just so you know, like I know this is interesting. Well, maybe it's not. I think people are interested sometimes when we do talk about the strike. Where are we at in the strike? We can give you a little bit of
I don't know if people are interested in that, but we can ask. We can,
people
yeah,
have been asking questions about. We
yeah,
did when you weren't here. There was a lot of interest in
yeah.
certain things going on in the strike, and I think one of the things that people were asking about in the chat um, was that what about SAG? Is
Hmm.
SAG going to go on strike? So the big thing that happened this week, a very big pivotal moment, is that SAG, which represents everybody, right? Really, if you've acted once, you're pretty much in SAG.
I don't know if
They,
that's true. I mean, it takes a while to get into it, but yeah, go ahead. It's fine.
you make a little bit of
Yeah,
money. So, but a lot of people are in SAG.
yeah.
And last night they sent out a vote if they can't get what they want from their negotiations, that they would go on strike. And so in a couple of weeks, we'll figure out whether or not that vote is high enough. So when the WGA did that, it came back at like 99%.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So yeah, so we'll see what SAG comes back at. And if it's high enough, that sends a real strong message to the people that we're negotiating with, because SAG, the DGA, and WGA are all negotiating against this organization called the AMPTS, and they represent all the big studios and streamers, but each group does it independently. But here's the thing: if writers are on strike, directors and actors can still act. If directors are on strike, you can at least start to stockpile and write and get things into the mix. If actors go on strike, literally everything shuts down.
Yeah.
Just grind, like every reality show. There was
I mean,
an executive.
there are a lot of shows that have shut down like in solidarity. I
Oh
feel like,
yeah.
you know.
Oh, and there's been a lot of shows that have shut down because of picketing. There's a really cool
Yeah.
thing going on with the WGA, which is they've aligned themselves with IATSE and the Teamsters, and no Teamster truck will cross a picket line. That picket line could have 3 people on it. The picket line could have 150 people on it, and they will turn their trucks away. What is a bummer is that they don't get paid for their workday, and so they truly are in solidarity with the writers, and they're not up for any contract negotiations. They're just standing there
And
as proud union
very
members.
quickly, I see some people in the chat say this happens every 10 years or whatever. I mean, yeah, but the reason why it's happening again is because streaming and all of that stuff has changed stuff so quickly and so dramatically. And like, not to get too into the weeds about it, but like, you used to be able to make a living as a writer. Like did you send me that, or someone sent me this interview with David Simon, the guy from The Wire and stuff,
Oh
who was
yeah,
saying that like,
yeah. I've read that for sure. Yeah,
yeah, well, I saw like an interview with him on the picket lines, and he was saying like, when I was doing like my shows, we had 30 weeks on, like in
yeah.
production, like for the whole show, and then the rest of the year you had 20 weeks off, but you made enough money where you made a living, and then you would be prepping for the next season, or trying to sell the next show or get the next show.
Well, And
but
what
it's
people don't
changed so
realize,
much that like when you do a show for Netflix or Disney or Hulu or anybody, you used to get paid like every time it airs, residuals and stuff like that. They don't do that anymore. Like now, all that streaming stuff, you just get paid like a low rate one time, and that's it. It's just like a buyout, and it's like so. Basically, everyone's income that's a writer and actors, I would say too, your income is just going like
actors' income has dropped significantly because, again, you get paid with residuals. I will say that one thing that I was talking about this a couple weeks ago on the show. One of the writers wrote a pretty concise breakdown of what you could be making, and it basically was you can't make your year if you get one job a year. And people are like, well, get more than one job a year. But
so
part of this
to get a
is
job.
the writers' rooms are smaller, so there are less jobs available, and so you could go sometimes 6 to 9 months without getting your next job if your show gets canceled, or or even if it gets picked up again. There is not enough work, and part of that has been because of all these cost-cutting measures. But I'll say this to the other people out there: this happens every couple of years. The SAG has never gone on strike. The last time they went on strike was 43 years ago.
Is that true?
Yeah, and the last time that the DGA went on strike, that was, I believe, like 23 years ago.
So I mean,
And
but there's some like stalemates along the way where there's negotiating for like they set up these contracts to last for
every 3 years.
Yeah, like the contracts are only for like 3 years, so that's why people hear about this periodically, and it's like.
But just like everything else, like teachers and nurses, everybody's going through the same thing, which is like everybody's profession is being squeezed because somebody is like, oh, well, he can do it. Well, can't this one person do the job of 5? And because everyone needs to make rent or needs to provide for their family, like, I'll try. And then you also get into this tough position too. You really have no power. So it's a universal struggle that everyone is going through. We just happen to be going through it, and we have a lot of Instagram pages to force it in your face. But yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of like bigger threats out here because it's becoming less and less of a profession. It's more of a gig economy. People are like, well, get another job then. Well, sure, but then you can't get the next job because if you're getting another job, then you're taking yourself out of the job that you're doing. It's not as cut and dry as people say. And I read this one really dumb tweet today because one of the core tenets of the WGA negotiation. And by the way, all these organizations negotiate separately. So the WGA is on strike. They are on strike. The DGA is negotiating. They are not on strike. SAG-AFTRA, will be going into negotiations in a month and a half. So they're also not on strike. So
no, they're already in negotiations, aren't they?
No, right now it's
June,
just a month and a half away, I believe, until they could. I thought that's when their negotiations start, but maybe I'm wrong. But it's still a while away. They're a month and a half out before they could call a strike. I know that. That was the big deal of last night, is that they did it so early. So the thing that I read was one of the complaints, and this is, there are different things that come out in the press, and people are like, well, I don't know about that, is this idea of the mini room. So a lot of the times what's happened here, and this is a very quick version of it, is they say, oh, can you write your show of 8 episodes with 3 people? And because of the same thing, like, can you do your job of 5 for 1? You say yes because you want to get your show made. And I think the media makes a big deal out of people like Mike White. Like, oh, he wrote White Lotus all by himself. That's an anomaly. Everybody else, and where we've all grown up and all the shows that you love, were written by staffs of 12 to 15 people. Happy Endings, a show that I love, I think had 30 writers.
Yeah.
It's like that's what the world is. It's a committee. You have a showrunner. And I read this tweet where the guy's like, mini room's never going to fly. Comedy by committee just doesn't work. And people trounce on because like people don't understand that like these shows, or even when you think about David Chase and The Sopranos, or when you think about Game of Thrones, you may hear these names, or Vince Gilligan. Like people, they have a giant staff underneath them, and great showrunners promote their writers to go up, and they get better opportunities, and then those people go out and make their own shows, and it's a whole cycle of greatness.